Hey there, guys, and welcome to Naked Reality, a podcast all about stripping bare mental health. We're going to hear from people all over the world sharing their stories, their experiences, and their journeys with what they've been through in their life. But now it's time to get naked with our next guest. During all of our episodes in this podcast, we do cover sensitive topics. So if you or anyone you know is suffering with anything that we discuss, please listen to the end of the episodes where we can find contact details for us or support lines to help you with what you are going through. 3, 2, 1, and we're on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for another episode, and I'm sat here with one of my good friends and mentors, Mr. Matty Bruce, a beautiful, beautiful human being who's come on today to share some of his stories around what he's been through in his journey through life. And we'll talk a little bit about what we do together in a coaching role, and just have an all-round good chit-chat and for you guys to get a chance to know Matty and what he does and where he's been. So welcome, Matty. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for those kind words. It's been a really big honor of mine to firstly to meet you as a brother, and then to be with you on this journey. And we've been going pretty deep together. So really looking forward to supporting you in this podcast, and hopefully putting some info out there that your users can listen to, and help them up level their lives, because it's the kind of person that I am. That's what interests me, and that's what I'm all about. So big love.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I guess it's we came about getting to know each other from, I think it was Adam who first introduced and started talking. I think he was working with you, and I was doing some PT work with him, and he kept sharing with me about what you do and how you do it. And he told me about the idea that you had about the men's work collective, which I was a bit apprehensive, I guess, at the start to really jump in and join that, because I guess I didn't really know what it was all about. Being a person, I've been trying to build a business for a few years. I've been through a fair few business coaching things, and there was always that big sort of negative vibe towards these sorts of business containers. But when I finally stepped in, I was overwhelmed with how different it was and how beautiful it is. And it was nice going through that process and finally stepping the foot in the door.
Yeah, thank you, brother. It's been a big part of my journey, is to be able to understand my emotions and really get in touch with my creativity as a man. And that's what Men's Work Collective is about. Can we get men out of this normal mindset and how we normally thinking, acting, operating, even growing in a self-development mindset? And can we actually just come back to just being more in our creativity and being more freely able to express and relate to other men in that space. And that's what the Men's Work Collective is all about. So that's been a huge part of my personal development. I was in the army, I healed a lot of my PTSD. I went through that piece within mindset and really, understood my mindset and how to drive that from a personal development perspective. But then the next piece for me was all about creativity and emotions and being in this space, which then I wanted to kind of replicate that and create my development and be able to hold other men in that as well too. So that's the Men's Work Collective, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to be a part of, man. It really is. It's it's opened my mind to a lot of different aspects about life, a lot of different channels and pathways to move through my own mental health and personal growth at the same time. And I guess it's the first time as well, as a man, that I've really stepped into a group that's solely just full of guys, and being able to sit and be honest and be open and be vulnerable to a group of men in a space that's held so well as well, which is a really nice place to be.
Thank you, brother. I've got a question for you.
Far away.
What number would you give yourself out of 10 before you stepped into the Men's Work Collective, and then where would you see yourself now on a scale of kind of 1 to 10, if you could?
It's a good question. I guess that bottom number will always change depending on how high the how long I stay in this container and the growth that I have in it as well. But I would say I would give myself somewhere between a 4 and a 5, just based on the growth
Mhm.
that I've had since I stepped in. I was pretty self-aware to a certain degree of my own emotions, my own mental health, and my own mental state. But it's, I guess, the reason I've hit so low in terms of a 4 is that I've just learnt so much about how to be vulnerable as a man and how to be in a space with where I'm not feeling challenged, or I'm not feeling super competitive with other blokes, and you don't get that super like extreme masculine ego that kind of flows around that I've had in an industry that I've been in for quite some time. And
Mm.
it's yeah, it's like learning about human design, learning about chakras and energy flow and breath work. Man, it's been a beautiful journey so far. And it's that I'm almost certain that number from where I started is going to get lower, because I'm going to learn and grow so much more, which is
Mm.
nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful, bro. I yeah, it's, it lights me up inside, and it like brings me like huge amounts of joy and fulfillment, and I feel really proud in being able to hold guys like yourself in that container. So yeah, thank you for trusting me, and thank you for coming along into the Men's Work Collective. It really means a lot to me, bro. Yeah.
Like I always try and say, mate, blessed to be a blessing.
You. Yeah.
So what was the real drive? Where did the idea come from? Like obviously you've been through a fair bit yourself in your life with the army and stuff like that, and you've released a lot in your book as well. Where was the desire to create this I suppose conscious coaching leaders, we could call them?
Yeah. So I kind of like noticed that there was a huge gap in society. So myself and my partner Ruth, we built a lot of courses for a lot of like conscious creators, and some of like the biggest conscious, self-development people out there in the world. Victoria Borman, the O2 Awakening, all these people. There was kind of like this constant theme of men and women not being able to actually develop courses in a smooth, cost-effective way. Then men and women not actually understanding the traps that come with being able to create something and stepping into your purpose. There's a lot of like inefficiency that I could like really see in this like path to, hey, I'm a coach, I want to put something out into the world, and what does that look like all the way to the end? And it wasn't like me trying to problem solve. I actually just hopped in like a well, I guess this probably goes back to my book. So I finished and launched my book and had a PTSD growth mindset community. And I think, I had a tremendous amount of success in that, where, I was probably on like 15 different traditional media outlets. I was on the TV, I was on radio, I was on newspaper, and all these amazing things. And once the book had kind of finished, it was like the energy and like my ability to be in that identity was just gone. Like I would normally sit in front of my camera, and I'd sit in front of my phone, and I'd PTSD for days, and I would just put like videos out to assist my community and all these things. And after that happened, was just stuck. Like I couldn't make another video on PTSD ever again. Just like the words weren't there; they just weren't coming out of my mouth. It was just like I was really trying to force something that just didn't want to be made. So then I kind of like actually really surrendered into that. I was like, okay, cool. Like what I was, and since I've written this book, it's just kind of finished. And it's like I'm trying to show up in that space again, trying to hold on to this identity and who I was. And I was just like really uber aware of that it wasn't like working. So it's like, okay, cool. Just park that. And then I had a float tank one day, and then literally the whole idea of the Men's Work Collective just like boom, it was just there, like end to end. Like it wasn't even like something, this is the next step. It was just kind of like this whole download of information of how it looked from end to end was there. Like the technical side of things, like partnering with Lockie, all of these different things were just all there. So then I just created it. And the Men's Work Collective was born in probably like 4 weeks. And we went from having nothing to me assembling a small team. Site was built, and then we launched our first course, which was Tully and Cat, like within 4 weeks. And they had launched like a $75,000 course within that 4 weeks. Yeah, so it's pretty amazing. I guess, myself and my team, and the way that we are able to build the website, build the branding, and build the graphics. I'd had a lot of like practice in that. I guess I've been very entrepreneurial my whole life, and so is Lockie. And then we're able to create something that was quite beautiful. You know, and the Men's Work Collective is now has something like 30 or 40 coaches involved in it, putting out courses all over the world. You know, we've got people creating courses in Mexico, people creating courses in Abroad. We've just signed like a gentleman in Canada. We've got, you know, obviously Perth, people from Margaret River, lots of coaches from Queensland, and like the eastern states, Sydney, and then like a couple of the best coaches in New Zealand as well. So that's where we're at. And hopefully, you know, my dream and my intention is to be able to, you know, create the Men's Work Collective to make a difference in men's work, to allow men all over the planet to be able to have a huge impact and being able to change the world for themselves. So it's less about me and less about my courses and what I'm putting out there, and more about just having like an impact on men's work in general, because, you know, that's what I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, I love that, buddy. It's that's so great to see like such the success. And I suppose being in the container myself, and you know, being in with the guys that we got here in Perth, it's like I suppose we're just sort of not seeing what's on the outside. I didn't realize it was so big and doing so well, which is it's so great to hear that it's you know, it's evolved so quickly, which is beautiful. I guess one of the biggest questions that pops up, like knowing a little bit of your background, is obviously, mate, like I've been able to experience firsthand like the love that you share and that compassion that you hold for so many of us guys. Like, how did you get there and get into to be able to be in this space from, you know, which is so open and so what you would consider as, you know, not the stereotypical man, you know, the caveman that we all seem to believe that we need to be at some stage in life as a man, from being in the army, which is a very, you know, it's a very testosterone driven, you know, explosions, all this sort of stuff, gunfire sort of environment, to this beautiful space that you're in now. How did that come about?
Firstly, like, this beautiful state isn't always a constant. Like, you know, I'm a human. I have emotional waves, and I go up and down as well too. So I don't want to project like any false sense of like, you know, enlightenment or any of that out into the world. You know, I'm still a man who's still making mistakes and still doing the work myself. But I guess ultimately, you know, it's been tool driven and like a desire for change. And I guess like there's a lot of people in personal development space, you either come from that I needed to change or I want to change. And there's a bit of a difference. Like when you need to change, when you're like life's really at the bottom and you need to like make huge changes, then there's such a desire. It's like nearly like a survival mechanism in how you're going about changing. Um, so for me, that looked like meditation, that looked like work, and then that looked like you know, really always seeing each moment as an ability to kind of like really level up and change who I was as a person. And you know, I'd say that majority of my change has always been driven from my relationship. You know, my inability to show up, or my ability to be stuck in my PTSD, or my inability to be stuck in my stories has always really impacted my partner. So I've always been driving a lot of the changes within inside myself as a man, so I can just like really show up into that relationship the best that I can. And you know, we all know that the world's a mirror, life's a mirror, and you know, relationship is not in an amazing space, or our partner is kind of reflecting things back to us. It's kind of like, okay, cool, what is there here for me to learn? How can I show up in a different way? And how can I be a better version of myself to be, you know, more wholesome, more integrated as a man?
I love that, man, and thanks for being so humble as well. It's beautiful that you sit in that space as well. You know, with the achievements that you've had, it's great to be able to hold that space for yourself and to share that with us as well. That's thank you. Um, I guess like you know, with having something like PTSD, and you know, I personally, it's not something I've experienced. I know, you know, yourself, and I know Corey, one of the other guys. You know, he has similar sorts of issues with PTSD and things like that. What is it that, you know, what is it that PTSD really causes? And give us a little bit of an insight into what that is for you and what it has been for you.
Yeah, I'd say that PTSD is just like massive levels of constriction. And I'd say that, like, statistics are that 20% of the Australian population will have PTSD at some point in their life. So it's like 3.5 million people, I think.
Mm.
And then also the large majority of those people that are going undiagnosed. So PTSD doesn't need to come from war type scenarios. It just needs to come from a level of constriction in the body. So whether that's like you crashing your push bike or being in a car accident, there's going to be a huge level of constriction in your body, like in an instant, and then that can get stuck. And then once that level of constriction is kind of like stuck in like a safety mechanism within our mind, within our body, it's like we're living our life like this. We might know we're still moving around like this, but ultimately on the insides, we're constricted and our emotions have closed off, or our safety is being threatened, and our primal parts of our brain have been activated. So we're seeing the world in a different way. And then that's basically like, a sudden onset trauma of PTSD. Then you can have PTSD that's kind of like maybe more of the military based PTSD, where it's kind of like small constrictions over time. And then you might go, and there might be like a medium-sized constriction, like say being rocketed in Afghanistan, etc., which is kind of closing you down more and more and more. And then all of a sudden, you're just basically one big ball of constriction. So your emotions aren't moving. Your ability to express and communicate, and your ability to even be aware of like what's going on within your body, and even be aware of like what the stories are and what your reactions are within your mind are pretty much like non-existent. So then you're just stuck.
Mm.
So then ultimately what PTSD has been for myself is like really undoing all of these layers of constriction. So, undoing the mind and the reactiveness of the mind, and then undoing the body and allowing the fascia to open up, and healing my nervous system and healing my digestive tract and healing all of these different pieces within inside of my body to just allow me to be open again and to be free.
Mm.
And it's been quite a journey to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I suppose like obviously coming out of the army, there's obviously a lot of trauma and stuff that's related to war and violence and things like that. But what were some of the sort of the external factors that you noticed for yourself? That you sort of started to realize that I might have an issue, or there's a problem going on that doesn't make me feel quite the way I should be.
Anger. I was the angriest MF. I was
Feel
the
free to swear,
angriest
man.
person. Yeah, I was the angriest motherfucker ever. So I was working in the corporate environment, and I was just so disconnected from myself, so disconnected from my family, my friends, people in the workplace. I was so stuck in my head, and I was so reactive to wanting to create stress and drama within my life. I was like addicted to it, that then I was just like constantly angry. I was just always looking for a hit of cortisol, always looking for something to constrict that, because then that's when I felt safe. And then that's when I felt like in my normal. So I was like basically like looking at the world, looking for stuff to be angry at. And I'd be like, oh, I'm angry at that. I'm going to constrict and get angry. And so when you're in those like behaviors, then, CrossFit is probably your first medicine. And those points, you're like using CrossFit as a way to try and like move through some of these huge like constrictions that you have within your body. You're kind of already adding to it. Then it's drinking, then your diet sucks, then it turns into like drugs, then it turns into the people that you're hanging around, and like ultimately your level of ability to be able to relate to your inner world and be free on the inside. And all of this constriction shows up in every facet of your life as well. So how we're relating to ourselves and how we're treating ourselves is how every other relationship in our world is going to like look. So if I'm treating myself poorly and I'm really constricted and I'm really disconnected from myself internally, my workplace is going to look like that. My relationship's going to look like that. My diet's going to look like that. All of these relationships are just going to be a reflection of what's going on within me.
Yeah, it's really good to be aware of. I mean, it's like I guess for the conversations that we've had together, one of the biggest things that I noticed about myself was my relationship with my sexuality and my pornography. I guess you could call it even an addiction, because it was it was a place that I went to when I needed a hit of something. I, at that time when it first became a realization was being part of the men's work collective and us starting to have these open conversations about the penis and sexuality and things like that. And like pornography addiction is like it's a huge thing. But I've noticed like through doing some of the work that you've been giving us as a group, and through exploring myself a little bit. I've really started to notice that it's not a need or a want anymore, which is, it's, I guess, pornography in itself and sexuality for itself is a very difficult conversation for just one bloke to have, let alone a group of blokes, right?
Yeah, 100%. Sexuality is something that's like hugely important to me at the moment. So I've just like about to graduate from the new paradigm intimacy. So it's like a 6-month sexuality, somatic sexuality facilitator. So I'll be like accredited with an Australian standard of being able to facilitate, like hugely important to me. And secondly, like reason it is so important to me is because I've had so much shame around my sexuality and sex, and that's something I've inherited through my parents and inherited from my small town like kind of mentality, that like literally we are not relating to our penis, we're not relating to our sexuality in a healthy way. So it's kind of like it's pushed down here and we have shame on top. And one of the easiest ways for us to actually be able to open up and like heal a lot of our sexuality and heal a lot of those pieces is to get rid of the shame. So holding those spaces with inside the Men's Work Collective so we can remove shame around our sexuality. Bang, our needs or our wants or our ability to kind of repress or shove down these needs or desires that we have anymore, just gone and disappear. So it's beautiful that you can be able to move through some of those pieces, and it's just such a potent piece of men's work, men being able to healthily relate to their cock and to their sexuality.
Yeah, I think, with it being as well such a difficult thing for a lot of people to talk about, it's often hidden. And I think that's something that we do with a lot of these, like the cortisol hit, for example, that you were looking for, the dopamine hits that people look for in life to try and get those, those quick little fixes and those quick little feelings of self-satisfaction and self-gratification, I guess, that they're there, but we just don't talk about them. Like, we're very, we sit in that space of self-shame, like our relationship with food, pornography, another one, sex as a whole. And more and more, I'm finding that the more I talk to people, exercise is one of the latest ones. Unfortunately, last year, and this wasn't through the coronavirus, was I lost 3 friends to suicide, and who were all very, very like habitual exercisers. And it's I guess it's, as much as people say, the gym is probably one of the best spaces to help with mental health you can be in, but there has to be more to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. If we're using that as a coping mechanism, we can only use it for so long, to cope for so long. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard space to, I suppose, because there's so much physical growth, and there's so much physical relief, both in exercise and sexual gratification, like with masturbation and going around and sleeping around and things like that. You get to use your body in a way where you are expelling energy and you are expelling a lot of negativity, so it feels great at that moment in time. But it's I guess, like, it's having that level of awareness and being able to hold that level of awareness to know that there's more, right?
Well, some people aren't actually aware that, like, how destructive like excessive exercise can actually be. And huge amounts of excessive exercise, can be like an addiction, or it can be actually you protecting yourself. So let's just say that you've got like something going on with your heart, and you're building up your chest in the gym. You might have hurt, a partner might have hurt you, or you might have some childhood trauma or something you've inherited in your heart, and you're building up your chest. You're actually doing that as armoring your ability to breathe, your ability to have like mobility and flexibility in your heart space is actually kind of like taken away from you there. You become so rigid, like then your emotions and all the stuff that's going on inside your inner world is kind of just being like locked down from this exercise routine. So, huge amounts of weights and like excessive like rigidness like can actually have catastrophic effects on our actual ability to be like our overall vitality. So it's like more of a balanced, it's like anything of too much is kind of counterproductive for us in our life. So I still go to the gym, I still lift weights, and having that ability to be, in our testosterone and in our masculine is very powerful. But overusing that in a certain way as an unconscious protection mechanism can be really, really dangerous.
Yeah, I agree, man. It can be very, very dangerous. As unfortunately, seeing a few people lose their lives, even having these rigid disciplines in place where they had that outlet, that they were they were outletting that little bit of emotion through the exercise that we're doing. But
Yeah.
when it came to not exercising, those problems, those issues, that pain was still there, and it was locked down in a deep dark vault that they weren't willing to express.
I'd really love to see PTs take on like a whole new dynamic, in a sense of, you're coming to that session for an hour. It's not about busting your gut. It's like about, all right, cool. How can I drop in? How can the PT facilitate me to drop into my body? What intention can I set for this session as well, to be intentional, like, and also not just like intentional about we're creating in the physical body, like, what can we move through the other bodies as well too. And then like at the end of it, like, not pushing too hard, then can we drop in the body? Can we do a meditation? Can we reflect? Can we move through some stuff? Can we do some visualization? Like, can we use that hour to like really set ourselves up for success? Like, that's how I'd love to see the PT space move towards. So it's like, overall vitality. And it's like, you come into the gym that day and you're like really tune into your body and you're like, nah, I'm actually sore, I'm fatigued. Like, I'm actually at pushing myself further than my body wants to go. And it's like, how can we facilitate a session that honors the body, honors you not pushing yourself too hard, and takes that kind of like real ability for us as men and women to be able to tune into our body and actually understand when enough is enough as well too.
I really like that, man. I really like that. So I guess you mentioned before about CrossFit being like a little bit of an outlet for you initially to really start to get that growth and to start to realize that you can release this torment that's going on inside your body. What was sort of the other things that you started to, those positive sort of things that you started to attach to that to help you move past just the stage of it being like a physical explosion that you could release?
Well, like when I very first come back from Afghanistan, I wasn't aware of the changes and all the things that had happened in my body. I wasn't aware of what I'd repressed and suppressed in there. And I was actually like using exercise 2 or 3 times a day. So I was in the army, obviously, and we had really cool facilities. I had heaps of training buddies, and I was training 3 times a day. So I'd train in the morning in the army, which is like pretty intense, like kind of combat, kind of like sessions or running and all that. Then at lunchtime, I was in the gym working out from say probably about 11:30 to 1 o'clock each day, and skipping like a little bit of work, come back and eat my lunch in the bay. And that was like, 6 days a week. And then also like overnight time, I was still like little sessions myself. So that's like 3 sessions a day in an unhealthy format. And that was something that was kind of like celebrated and like okay within the military. So then CrossFit was basically like, something that evolved out of that. It was just like a different way to flog myself. It was a different way for me to be able to basically, disconnect from stuff that I didn't want to deal with. So, all of that was just basically a disconnection method from not me being able to not sit still and not being able to process what I needed to process.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool, man. It's good to, again, man, like you have a level of awareness, that there's something in you that's not quite right. And I guess there's a lot of people out there that have I guess a certain level of awareness, but are not really sure how to move through it. It's like, there's this pain or this trauma that sits within inside the body, and it feels like the exercise is enough, or it feels like the pornography or the sleeping around is enough. But then we as people, once we start to use something to its state where it becomes an abuse or an addiction, we start to need something more. We start to need a bigger hit or a bigger release. So then it churns and changes into something else. And I suppose this is something to be really, really aware of if you're starting to feel this negative relationship to something in your life that used to be so positive.
Yeah, bro. That's the modern world, 2020, 2021. Shit's real these days for people who like have all these burdens. So, exercise is definitely a massive, amazing release, but just start to be conscious of, are there other things that you can do to supplement that as well too? Could you actually be seeing a therapist and talk? Could you go to Happiness Co and do like a breakthrough workshop? Could you be going to a more alternative PT like Joey and mixing things up and understanding mindset and what's actually going on an emotional level? So, this is the year for us to really take control of our overall vitality, our overall well-being, and to really be able to make some changes.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think this is it's a good place to be able to, listening to something like this, and to be able to hear something from, a guy such as you, who was in such a space as in the military, which is, like we said before, like it's testosterone city, that's the way it's viewed. And to be able to come out of it and flow into a space that you're into now, it shows that there is a path, and it shows that there is a way to start to find this. And like you said before, which the humbleness that comes across from you is that, and I say this myself too, is that I'm by no means are we any finished article. There's no sense of perfection. There's still a lot of struggle, and there's still a lot of trauma that needs to get worked through. Sometimes it can be a daily thing. Sometimes it can we can go a few weeks and before something comes up. But it's good to be able to realize that there's always something to work towards. There's always something to be able to sort of channel into, and have tools available to be able to work through those things.
Yeah, 100% agree, bro. And let's get real. Meditation is one of those, especially like if you are developing as a man and you're moving through different pieces within inside of yourself, and you do have the environment that's allowing you to actually look at some of your past. Meditation is critical for you guys, for every man and woman, to be able to drop in and look at themselves. And it's not woo woo. It's like literally just taking your brain to the gym. It's no different to lifting biceps. Your brain works in a few different ways, in the way that it wants to jump to the future, or wants to jump to the past, or wants to do a few certain behaviors. We can just actually start to witness them and train them. So we actually have better control of our mind, and we have better control of our mind. We have better control of our life.
Yeah, I agree, man. And it's when I remember when I first came to meet you in, I think it was Space Cube in Vic Park. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Came to, and you introduced me to the Men's Work Collective and everything like that. And I think at that space and that time, like I was very stuck in my heavy masculine, and really like, I'm a man, I'm going to push forward, I'm going to, fight the world away kind of thing. And I remember at the time feeling like, and talking to you and listening to how you were so open, I felt very, very internally challenged, and that to a point where I felt like really rubbed up the wrong way. And I guess this was my masculine ego going like, you don't need this shit. Like, you're able to fight. You've been running a boxing gym for God knows how many years. You've been fighting. You can fight your way through everything. What do you need this crap for? And looking at that now, and seeing where I've come, and like even to say to you the other day that I want to kind of rip apart what I've already started to create something that's more wholesome, because I realized that I was in a path of like real heavy, like strong masculine ego. And it was like, dude, you've got to fight. You've got to do it this way. You've got to shout. You've got to scream. Every bit of testosterone in your body, you've got to use it to move forward. And to be in that space, and then to be where I am now, where I feel so calm. And like, it sounds odd still for me to say, because that heavy masculine, that voice is still in my head on the daily, is like, I feel love flowing throughout my body. I can feel like the beautiful energy that, is supposed to be emitting from us as conscious human beings day in, day out. And so like for anyone that's, judging what we're talking about, or possibly looking at it going, it's a bit woo woo, as you say, it's like you can move. It may take some time, but you can move, and you can shift from these places to use meditation. Like, it was something, again, like these sorts of tools I use personally, as a way to medicate. So I'd go, I'm only using meditation when I feel really, really shit.
Mm.
But now I've got to the point where I listen to your meditations. I listen to this African dude who has the most hypnotic voice I've ever heard in my entire life, and I do like a self-love meditation of his, and it just brings me into a space where of presence in everything that I'm doing, and
Mm.
like you feel what's going on in the moment as opposed to having to look back at photos and try to regain those emotions. You know, it's the memory is more important than the physical, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And that's what real masculinity is, man.
Hmm.
Masculinity is being present, being able to feel the world around you, and being able to be centered in yourself.
Hmm.
And if your experience of being masculine is kind of anything different to that, then you've probably got a little bit of work to do to come back into your ability to be that. And that's not any fault of your own. That's just the way that the world is these days. That we're basically pumping out these guys who are so disconnected from themselves and disconnected from their emotions. And yeah, it's beautiful to hear your journey, bro. And um, I'm glad to hear that I rubbed you up the wrong way. It's part of who I am and what I'm here to do. And that's what happens. Like when I sit down and talk with people, I'm here to trigger people. I'm here to get people to change, and that's how we change by having our spaces poked, by having our blind spots poked, by being rubbed up the wrong way, and then that's where change really happens.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree, man. And I guess what the interesting thing that I've been learning recently from you as well is the relationship between the dark and the light, masculine and feminine, and how like we as men and women as women, sit in both of these and have such different reactions and different ways of being. And this is
Mm,
this this is something I'm really starting to be intrigued into to learning a lot more about now.
yeah,
Um, the beautiful world that is just evolving in Clubhouse. I've been in a
yeah,
few spaces in there and started to hear the conversation go on about dark masculine, dark feminine, light masculine, light feminine, and it's just like, whoa, this isn't just something that we blokes talk about in our little group. It's it's something that's starting to evolve, which is good.
yeah. Like it's a construct that like exists all over the world, and something that I haven't made up. It's just something that I'm speaking to. That's something that's real. And the sooner that we actually acknowledge that we have all of those parts living within inside of ourselves, the sooner we can actually start to become more aware of some of our self-destructive behaviors. And more importantly, when we're spending too much time and space in one of those areas, and if we're always hustling and always trying to make money, and we're always very career driven, we're going to be very in that dark masculine kind of like energy. And what comes with that is kind of like the predator, and kind of sexual dysfunction and all those things, like increased sexual libido and all of those areas. So we know that there's actual there's byproducts and payoffs from us living in a certain part of our life, and it's like how can we actually structure our life where we're balanced? How can we be still goal orientated and still work to the future? How can we still be in that place of presence and hold space for our partner? How can we actually have like a level of emotional awareness and space in our dark feminine, so we're kind of like aware of what's happening within our emotions, so we're not kind of like trying to control the world around us or be manipulative because we're not aware of those. And then how can we actually be like giving and loving in our light feminine, that we actually still kind of like caring for our partner and being supportive, and all of those pieces basically make up like a whole, happy, balanced human. If we don't have the ability to give, if we don't have the ability to hold space, we don't have the ability to be aware of our emotions, and we don't have the ability to move forward, well then we're not really in alignment.
Mm. And the best thing that I've seen this for myself personally so far, this learning just a little bit that we've learned so far, is the way I can communicate and understand my partner better, my wife, is if I can understand me and where I'm at, and I can start to see where she is and where she's at, it gives me a way to be able to, to channel my way of communicating to her. If I can see which sort of place she's holding herself in at this current time, rather than get upset by the way she is and start to react, I can be aware, and I can hold that space, and I can look and I can go, oh, okay, maybe she just needs a little bit of compassion. Maybe she just needs a little bit of love, or maybe she just needs some time. Maybe she even needs yelling at, maybe she needs a good, a little bit of a push to move out of this. But it's being able to understand and to move through that with her means that we can have a better relationship and a better way of communication, which is so beautiful.
Beautiful, bro.
Yeah.
Maybe she just needs a big hug.
Yeah, sometimes she needs that too.
Yeah.
That's
my go-to, bro.
Yeah. Just a
just
big
go
hug.
in there, just a big hug, whether they like it or not. Yeah.
I like it, man. Well, I know we're very quickly running out of time. And look, I'd definitely love to have another conversation with you about and go into a little bit more depth into this for the listeners. But I guess the best thing I'd like to look at for this moment is, I know there's going to be people out there listening and really not understanding some of this stuff that we've talked about so far, because it is part of the journey down the track. Like, I guess from your advice and from your personal experience, what would you say to somebody that wants to have a little bit of change and wants to, and realizes that there's something in this that's connected with them, and saying, yeah, I want to move on down this path? What would you give to them?
I'd say head to the Men's Work Collective and actually just see the amazing plethora of coaches and courses that we have to offer. That's the whole point. Is people like yourself. Lockie and I are bringing out a 10-week beginners course. There is all of these beautiful opportunities for these people to be able to develop different parts of themselves that exist within the Men's Work Collective. If you can't find what you need there, reach out and email us, and tell us your specific needs, and we'll recommend you to go in the right direction. We're super passionate about just helping people find the correct work that they need. So just make a choice to make change, set the intention to make change, and take action through sending an email or log in online to have a look at the Men's Work Collective.
Because you, from memory, you work synergistically with a woman's work as well. Do you? Am I right about that?
So no. So we can definitely facilitate any women as well too. If they need any recommendations, please just hit up the Men's Work Collective. We'll be able to recommend some of the courses that exist out there. Myself and my partner are helping a lot of amazing women facilitate courses all around the world as well too. So we're more than happy to recommend anything.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. Well, I know you're short on a little bit shorter on time today, but I'd definitely love to have you back, man, and to have some more conversations like this. If you're open to it, that is.
Yeah, let's do it, bro.
I love it, man. It's really been good to connect with you on this level, man, and sit in this space with you and have a little bit of a heart-to-heart chat, and to learn a little bit more about your story, and to be able to hold that space for you to share that as well, man. It's been beautiful.
Amazing, brother. Thank you. Big love. And sorry I needed to run away so quickly, but yeah, it's been a pleasure. And big hello to anyone out there that's listening and listen to the podcast. And I hope you're all having an amazing day.
Beautiful, man. Thanks so much, Maddie. I'll look forward to doing this again sometime soon, man.
See you, brother.
See you, bro. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of Naked Reality, and a massive show of gratitude to our guests who got naked about their mental health stories today in the studio with us. Also, a big thanks to our sponsor here for 2020 and 2021, GetSome.com.au, providing some amazing supplements from Origin Labs all the way in the USA and supporting our military veterans. Stay tuned for this important announcement.
For anyone listening that's in need of any support for any reasons for their mental health, please contact Beyond Blue on 1300 224636. Or for the ages of 12 and 25 years old, e-Headspaces at 1-800-650-890. Or for the ages of 5 to 25, Kids Helpline on 1-800-55-1800. Or if you're in need of any immediate support, please contact Lifeline on 131114, and they're available 24/7 for those in Australia. If you are looking for any more numbers, if you can visit healthdirect.gov.au/mental health lines. There's a lot of numbers there for specific topics. And also on our website is onu, that's o-nu.com.au/mental-health-support-lines. We have a list of phone numbers and contact details for many of the main areas around the world. If you are in need of any support, or you do know someone that this would benefit, please share this around to anyone you think may need it. Thank you.